Welcome to another edition of Toucan Rant's Masterpiece Theatre. Tonight, we will be doing a reading of The Wedding Trap.
Flock forth, ye fair feather fluffers.
And get to a seat if you feel the beat.
Be ye young, be ye old, be ye sober, or be ye beguiled by mead of Meliodas merriment, ushered unto Midgar from Aegir's egregiously garnished garage. Here, a yarn wove of a weapon stole, of a bride desired for her dainty delight, not her inspirational insight, and of a groom doomed by a drag-dressed goon. As an aroused sun bulges beneath the rigid rise, so also begins the morning meditations of men from mortal mold, or, in this case, the glamorously godly Thor, who rustled beneath the restfully ruffled satin sheets, greedy to clasp the erect shaft he groped each dawn for relief from the soggy, groggy fog. A hollow place. Agog in an empty space. For between four fingers, dumb bumbling and tenaciously trembling thumb, 'twas not but the numbness of ineptitude. The nude dude, with no wood to grasp, gasped. A precarious plot was afoot, and indeed, a rectum sorely in need to be introduced to a boot-induced reckoning. Whilst the whistling Thor pondered which shoe would do to commit the commencing colonoscopy, and, afterwards, autopsy, did Loki slither hither to tither the alarm clock's tick-tock.
Wakey, wakey, hands off Snakey!
Loki rang.
Your serpent's neck I'll wreck if your good head can't get me out of bed.
Thor sang.
Whoa there, brother dear. I dare not tiptoe down that taboo road with you in tow.
Loki preened.
Nay, you'd rather be engrossed on a horse.
Thor keened. Speechlessness serenaded. Ensnared by his own tongue-wrung noose, behooved by his hubris for his 8-hooved brood, was Loki's knotted silence hung. Quiet quickened the hangman's quartet as Thor quivered.
I cannot find my hammer.
Slothily said Thor.
You belong in the slammer.
Frothily said Loki.
Asgard's ass is in a jam.
Thor assumed.
For the giants, it's a honey-glazed ham.
Loki presumed.
Damn.
Thor deduced.
Double damn.
Loki doubly deduced.
Dubiously damned.
Thor dubiously deduced.
Indubitably damned.
Loki indubitably deduced.
Indubitably, dubiously, double damned.
Both indubitably, dubiously, doubly deduced. Slammed by the damnation delivered upon their nation's noble station, the brothers bothered blearily about their sudden sullen situation. Hush, and hold that halitosis.
Take a deep breath.
Hope you know some hocus pocus.
Relax.
Hear that hummingbird's hum heighten in humorous hue?
I'll push it on out.
Hearken hence the heroine to have our heaving horror.
Somebody please explain to them what she be about.
The hottest harlot thought whose heart could not be blindly bought. The tinder cinder whose righteous right swipe starts sparking sparks. The fantastically formed Freya flaunted forthwith flawlessly.
Y'all seem a bit glum.
Freya giggled.
We're both in a slum.
Both brothers twin-grimmed wiggled.
You guys don't gotta be bums. What is it?
Freya bubbled.
You should probably sit.
Both blubbered.
I've been told I can swallow quite a heavy load. No worries. I won't spit.
Freya bobbled.
Our home is in a pit.
Thor groaned.
Our fuse has been lit.
Loki moaned.
Our epitaph's now writ.
Both roamed. Tip-tat did her finger tip-tap on her hip before her lip did a dip.
Sir, I'm about to make like a banana and...
Splinters of Mjolnir are all that remain.
Thor did exclaim.
I can't contain this refrain. Insane in the membrane from the sprain in my brain.
Loki did complain.
To whom must the blame be laid?
Freya did proclaim.
Finding out will be a pain, but lend me your shawl, and I shall on a crane's frame soar unrestrained in the rain to search for the plains that Thor can have those stains slain.
Loki hooted like a train.
Shit.
Freya fraught with a writhing worry whimpered.
Hey,
Now garbed in Freya's frock of feathers, did Loki take flight as the toucan do.
Much to your feather fluffing delight.
Yet, it'd be a slight without the right insight. Loki took wing on the nebulous fluorescent neon feathers of a raving raven. Yet despite how high he flew or how low he grew, in lieu of the luminous view he knew in his sinew that Asgard would, by giants newly renewed, be drilled like a screw. Thus Loki joined unto them those wildly winds that blew towards Jotunheim.
Be quick with your tongue, you maggot scum. What is the hammer's ransomest sum?
Loki said handsomely in the sun to the lagoon baboon looming in his room.
Fee, fi, fo, fum, I wanna hump a hose plump bum.
Dumbly burped the bumbling buffoon.
Hey, Bob.
What's this hubbub?
You'd rudely reduced the great giant's generously gregarious King Thrym's unimpeded undulations to that of a dense dunce whose nasally nuisance induces nauseousness.
Aye, there's the rub. For as you'll soon attest, I'm the wokest bloke without contest. Let's listen to how those intonations of his salutations were untokenly spoken.
My deepest condolences, Cousin Loki, considering my cohorts and your compatriots in this chase to capture this contemptuous crook.
Cooed the chivalrous Thrym.
You took it, you traitorous twat!
Loki wittily winked.
Why would I wound the woman's kin I wish to wed?
Thrym shook off the hook.
In your dreams, you oblivious oaf!
Loki pretended to appear aloof.
A dream, I deem, might be redeemed if the hammer were retrieved.
Thrym seemed to disappear with an exhaled proof.
Sure, what the fuck, schmuck?
Loki clucked. Loki hawked up a big loogie and smiled smugly. Begrudgingly, Thrym shook that hand, for he had heard how obsolescently observed and connivingly kept were the oaths of Odin and his kindred kin. Hungrily, however, he hoped this hour he'd be honored. Back in the halls of Hildiskralf, the Asgardians assembled. Lols! Who am I kidding with this homage to historic heroes with heroic histories, like a priest seething at a pulpit at the heathens that blasphemously bash his prophet's prominence for profits?
Nah, fam.
These be pompadorious plebes parading with pimp posturings and swinging their kingly bling while singing the refrain to El Puss's elitely pussient lyrical libation ding-thing.
But whatever you do your thing. Going left, right.
Who wants to keep sober and keep order?
Screw sober, let's cause disorder.
Rather to be inebriated and hideous, high and salacious, wasted and rackishly wickedly audacious. One stumbles over the overturned cups, the upchuck, and those still down to tuck in for a frolickingly lucky potluck. Bong in hand, Loki began the long song of how the giants ganked, grabbed, and garnished Thor's hammer with a gusto reserved for reverence. Attention, all attendants. Reserve and amends the upcoming transmission, and, with your permission, let's take a brief intermission.
A small reprieve to breathe.
Who's the pompous-ass pope that penned this pandering propaganda? These implicitly elucidated insinuations insisting hastily hewn hesitations to hem the heroine's heavenly heights?
Whoa.
Lapse into a mayhaps that perhaps her indoctrinated idolatry by chromosomally Y-inclined imbeciles was plicked and placked and plucked to a puke-inducing funky punk's pun on a xylophone cipher by those in the zone hoping to bone. Pick up the phone, for the tone has shown.
Alone do the guillotine gilded guilty atone.
Stupidly sallied sardonic seem the staple for those in the steeple seeking to sully others for their own savory salvation. Hamper a heroine with a whore's wanton whirl that her heroine hooking a door becomes a bore for slimy simpleton Sims to knock off knocking on her door and pathetically pleading for more.
Damn, Daniel.
Yeah, delude this deluge of a diatribe dictation down and dither to this dandy ditty before we get back to the titular trial. Wistfully whisper on the elegant ear of your glorious girlfriend, whimsical wife, or sophisticatedly opulescent significant other, one of these illicit elicitations and keen whether she swoons.
And gives you the poon.
Or shoves a spoon.
Right up your full moon.
Onwards, nowhere, schnoobs! Loki began the boar's beseechment that would quickly quench the gloating giant's lusty, thirsty thrusts and release the hamstrung hammer from his feisty fist onto those we trust.
Have 1. Pulse-pumping pupils. 2. Lusciously lickable lips. 3. Transcendently tantalizing tongue. 4. Succulently saccharine saliva. 5. Salaciously sinuous silhouette. 6. Bombastically blossomed bosom.
Sound effect, yeah.
Titanically titillating titties. 8. Audaciously ample areola. 9. Hellaciously heavenly hands. 10. Blissfully bashful belly button. 11. Huggably happy hips. 12. Pristinely pampered pussy. 13. Tremendously tight twat. 14. Deliciously desirable derriere. At the end. Amen.
The drooling deities droned deliriously at the ludicrously delicious nubile menu.
Well, we'll have to do a wee bit of shopping and a fair bit of chopping to get that git and all the items he could hardly resist.
Thor sold.
Whole as a halo's hole, you harlot.
Loki told.
Freely forthwith we must flee with Freya to commence the consummation.
Thor commanded.
No dice. Can you imagine the size of his lice? It wouldn't be nice, the afterwards price for all that ice.
Freya told them all without any unnecessary sincerity.
Heed my plea. Let's put our heads together and gather an impeccable ideal since Freya won't heal.
Thor pleaded.
Not those heads.
Loki nearly pissed himself at their near miss.
No deal exists in which I'll kneel.
Freya flaunted a pout. The gods and goddesses hemmed and hawed as a way to forestall their fall. Pulled by their galling stalling, Thor threw a pew at a new before he blew.
Not a tick nor a tack to tick tacked into a tactile tactic to tackle this ogre's ornery orgy.
Let's quicken this section, for it does little to hasten my erection, except for the intention of the crank-anchor prankster who deviously devised this delineating drama on the DL, Hemdall, with a drawl that'll get men into brawls and ladies into stalls.
Better not be getting a boner over there, Mr. Narrator. Oi! A dress would be best put this duress to rest.
Hemdall heartily hard.
You must have rubbed your rudder raw too much, hentai. If you think it shall be, I shudder to think of how much your kink to your shrink you do deny.
Freya was as tough as Thor's swole chest did puff, but 'twas no bluff to say that she wasn't into any of that rough stuff.
Futile not to have fleeting fetish for fleets of feet with these eyes of future foretelling feats.
Heimdall dreamed of how many looks it would take to get to the footsie roll center of a footsie pop.
You still with us there, old bloke? Didn't reckon you won for altitude sickness.
Freya fluttered.
Buffer your befuddlement, Freya, for Thor is the one who'll be sore.
Heimdall swore while he wiped his weeping nostril snail trail.
Oh, bleep.
Thor swore too, but for fever-flogged fear of the curtailing clutches of the cancerous culture cult, those comedic comments have been cautiously censored. You're welcome to come to your own cumulative conclusions.
Whatever's clever.
Odin odiously ordained. Thusly did all the gallows gods, goddessly gals, and all the gallows gods, goddessly girls gleefully gather round to glisten, gleam, glitter, and glamour Thor up in a glowing gown. But not even all the gallows gods, goddessly gals, and all the gallows gods, goddessly girls could get that glowering glare out of Thor's gruesome gaze. A galvanizing glaze that turned into a raising razor's rage.
Why so serious?
Loki joked as he shimmied into shimmering stilted stilettos that shape-shifted his sharp shapes into all the sinfully sinister suggestions patriarchal practitioners pursued.
Bleepity, blippity, blop, bleeping, bleep, bleeper.
Thor's next convulsion of contemptuous comments were courteously commodified for our communal consumption. Congratulations on your continuous consideration, comrades. Mystique's unique mystique was, by a musically mused muscle, ubiquitously quilled so that Loki's liquid lamentations would not leak from humanity's concussed consciousness. Contemplate the template with which the X-rated X-Woman was etched to match. An assessment meant to address the duplicating duplications of doppelgangers' duplicitous duplicating duplicate state of undressed flesh to facilitate a transfixing facial facsimile with transformative forms. A horse, of course, was not any worse than the considerably divine maiden design Loki co-signed as a ruse to reside beside the cross-dressed actress, that they may gain access to repossess the artifice the villainously vain villain possessed.
Roll out. Get to the chopper!
Or we'll be late for the impending wedding's dwindling deadline.
So get to the chopper!
Can't let Hemdall entreat for a bride's cold feet. Refrain from revving vehemently the mental menstruations of monstrously mounting motorcycles, cyclically cycling motors' motions. Goats need oats to tote two toots.
Meh.
Not to gloat, but it's cheaper than the tithe the Grim Reaper reaps from a sliding ripe reaper's hide. Madman Mad Max would never need X-Lax to relax again after experiencing the maniacally manic Madwoman climax those two bodacious babes bade, as their rickety chariot rattled and prattled toward Jotunheim to join Thor with his betrothed troll. Contrary to the common sermon served of Thrym's bland land being a third world estate sand, the country was a closely compared compatriot to paradise. Witness the Bohemian bovine brandished in gold-bonded ornaments that adorned on their thick thorn hide horns. While the goat-driven wagon drove out of view, the two classically classy cross-dressed dressing deities dove in an improvised pose of an imposing superhero's outstanding crash landing.
Get down!
An entrancing entrance that would have demanded Deadpool to poo-poo the third wall in awed awe had it not been for how cows do their doo-doo.
Shit!
Loki shat out instead, for they had landed in excrement up to their head. But hey, at least someone had been told to lay low some stray hay so that they could make their way away from what had once been a fricasseet. Schlicked and schlucked did those two sick fucks muck through the pool of obnoxiously noxious ox stool.
My, what thick thighs she has.
Said a red-hooded hoodlum being shown the door.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Thor throatily thought, for he could not ruin the ruse of a silent saintess waiting for the wetness of palatable paint on her taint. Oh Lord, he himself might faint if he was forced to show such restraint. For before Thor was a feast that made his belly burble like a beast. All illusion that Thor's taste test of the past tense pastries with little kitten smitten nipping nibble would make this tidbit a frightful flippant fib. More like a Looney Tune cartoon did he swallow the tenderly tart tarts and tremorous tears that caused the oogling ogre to orgasm with eager egress to take for a zesty test, that dubiously jutting jaw, unhinderedly unhinged and nom-nom-nomming with a gurgling gusto upon his bulbous knob.
My, what a mammoth mouth she has.
The red-hooded hoodlum was thrown through the door. Tip Infinity on its head and dump it on its rum, for Loki unlocked loco logic that would allow him to elude the giant's guilelessly guessing glances by a harrowingly narrow escape with the explosively exemplar expelled inclusions of his son's soul sum.
8 late nights as of late has she fastidly fasted, all to unfasten the feast between your seats.
Loki repented.
Oh me, oh my.
Thrym consented.
A pungently preserved passion to have your prime protrusion permanently plunging her plugged poop portal in a porn star plumber's plunger performance.
Loki lent him some lube.
Okay.
A pow chicka wow wow.
Thrym sleazily squeezed.
Giggity giggity.
Loki gyrated.
In purview to the previously prescribed precoital prenuptial, I present the modestly unmolested Molyneux.
Thrym presented presently the protest procured present. Thor was handed his handsomely hung hammer.
Check, 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 check.
Tick, tick.
Check, check.
Did cackle the cheeky checkered consort of quartered connoisseurs consonants out the microphone mic check with majestically melodious allusions to the malicious mayhem about to enthusiastically ensue. They had a lute, they had a flute, they said fuck you to being on mute, and tooted and hooted as Thor's hammer began to upwardly shoot. Thor began his disastrously dashing, destructive disco discourse of the wailing waltz whammy and the hurricane hustle hysterectomy. Remember those generic gender reveal revelries? Pretend instead of blue and pink ink plumes pummeled forth from the prized pipe bomb popping of a sumptuously supplied firecracker fisticuffs ferociously firing.
America! Fuck yeah!
Confettied contents cascading in calamitous confection that sends children cartwheeling and squealing.
Wham!
Thor canoodles their noodles.
Bam!
Thor perionets a piston pounding on their pedigree poundage.
Pirouettes.
Thor culminates a catastrophic carnival crusher to their crotchety crotches.
Crack!
Thor bursts bones in buttery bending.
Zap!
Thor's lightning licks limp limbs, leaving lingering luminescent leers.
Snap!
All around the mulberry bush, the massacre masquerader marveled.
Crackle!
At the quivering queue of quitters' adieus,
Pop!
goes their weasels. And that, gentle gents and laudable ladies, by golly, was the story of how the holly jolly blonde main man of fame gained his red locks by dyeing his beard in the dispatched foes' unseemly, creamy crimson smears.
We thank you for listening